everyone. I think we'll go ahead and start. It's 4:06. So with respect to all your time, thank you so much for being here. On behalf of the FEZANA Interfaith Activities Committee, my co-chair, Homi Gandhi, and I welcome all of you present here today to FEZANA's first pre-Parliament event towards next year's Parliament of World's Religions taking place in person in Chicago from August 14th through 18th. My name is Bhaktavar Desai, and I'll be hosting this meeting today. You all have been muted for the benefit of receiving the best sound from the presentation that you can get on your device. After the presentation on the Cyrus cylinder is over, I will briefly take you through some information about the 2023 Parliament. After that, we will take questions you may have for Sam about his presentation or questions for me regarding the Parliament. Please put your questions in the chat. And if you put the word question right before your question in the chat, it will be easier for me to see it among the other chat messages. And now I want to share with you some important things about our speaker, which he has shared with me. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so grateful to our guest speaker here with us today, Sam Billimoria, who will share with us some of his tremendous knowledge on Cyrus the Great, Cyrus's cylinder, and its continuing legacy in our world since the past 2,500 years. Sam's interest in Iranian history started in the 1970s when he worked for an Iranian shipping company for 6 years. He visited Persepolis, built by Darius the Great, 4 times. He also visited Pasargadae twice, which is the capital of the Achaemenid Empire under Cyrus the Great. These visits greatly increased Sam's interest in Iranian history. He came to Los Angeles in 1982, and in 1993, he was able to get an audience with then US Congressman Ed Royce to provide him with evidence of the mention of Cyrus the Great as the anointed one in the Bible with his successors, Darius, Xerxes, and Artaxerxes, all mentioned in the Bible. Sam provided the congressman evidence that Cyrus chartered the first human rights in history. Based on that evidence, the honorable congressman, after due process, issued a proclamation which stated that the immense and timeless contribution of the Zoroastrian community to human rights, democracy, history, and civilization is greatly valued by the state of California. Sam also donated to the Library of Congress a video called The Dawn of Consciousness, which is about the basic understanding on Zoroastrian religion, produced by Mrs. Sillu Mehta. This video was accepted by the chief librarian and has its place today in the Congress Library. In 1993, Sam was appointed to the Congressman Ed Royce's Advisory Subcommittee for India, and then again on the Human Rights and Southeast Asia Subcommittee following the 9/11 tragedy in 2001. In 2021, Sam got a similar proclamation from another congressman, Congressman Lou Correa, for the Zoroastrian Association of California, of which he is a member. Currently, Sam serves as a director, a coach, and a researcher in public health in Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2023 Parliament will convene on the theme of a call to conscience. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2023 Parliament will convene on the theme of a call to conscience, defending freedom and human rights, calling people of faith and conscience to stand up together in all their diversity and defend democracy, freedom, and human rights. With that in mind, we are presenting to you now this pre-Parliament program on the grandfather of human rights, Cyrus the Great, and his Cyrus Cylinder, which is acknowledged in our world as the first Charter of Human Rights. So friends, we hope you enjoy Sam's presentation. I give you now our esteemed guest presenter, Sam Billimoria. Sam, please take it from here.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you see the PowerPoint?
We can. Thank you.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. Namaste, salam, shabbak khair. Well, we are welcoming you to this presentation of Cyrus' Cylinder and Timeless Zoroastrian Legacy. This aligns with the theme of 2023 Parliament, which is to defend freedom and human rights. We will talk about Cyrus' Cylinder that touches on basic aspects of human rights, Cyrus's discovery, importance, and its aspect, the replica of the cylinder in the United Nations building, Bible references to Cyrus Darius' success and Artaxerxes and the Achaemenid Empire. Now, Cyrus and Persians were Zoroastrians. This is according to Richard Fry and Ashwin Zan. They are from Harvard University. Now, Richard Fry was a foremost Oriental scholar, and unfortunately, he's passed away in 2014 at the age of probably 94. And it is according to them. And then we will segue into Legacy of Cyrus and Zoroastrians that follow the next two segments. So what you see in blue is the first segment. What you see in red is the second segment. And what you see in yellow over here is the third segment. The second segment will continue with Cyropedia, which is the education and biography of Cyrus and its influence on medieval Enlightenment eras and European democracy, influence of Cyropedia on US founding fathers, freedom, and the US Constitution. And then in the third segment, we will see direct Zoroastrian influence on Gandhi and colonial freedom, and Mahatma Gandhi's legacy on American civil rights, Martin Luther King and Obama. So this is the indirect effect of Zoroastrianism on American civil rights, MLK and Obama through the agency of Mahatma Gandhi. And then we will see Cyrus's monument in Australia.
Sam, before you move on to the next slide, could you please expand and make it full screen?
I will do that. Thank you for reminding me on that. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll have to move you here. Now, what happened? Wait a minute. I don't know why this is happening. Tech glitch, I'm sorry. I don't know what happens. Can we just keep it like that, Bakhtar? Unfortunately, I cannot expand. I don't know what is happening. It used to work okay, and then suddenly.
Okay, don't worry about it. Just try it with each slide. Maybe some slides may be like that.
Okay, all right. So a word about Zoroastrianism. It was founded by Porphyry, and we call him Ashur Zarathustra in ancient Persia. It is totally mainly concentrated in Asia, United Kingdom, North America, and Australia today. It's very minuscule in population. It is estimated to be 0.0015% of the world's population. So to put it in perspective, it is 1,000 of 1%. Cyrus was born around 590 BCE, and he died in 529 BCE. He is considered to be one of the most benevolent conquerors and emperors of all time. That is according to the National Geographic magazine in 2019. He is venerated in the Hebrew Bible as a Messiah. He conquered Babylon in 539 BCE, liberating the Jews from captivity. Cyrus was followed by the successors Darius, Success, and Artaxerxes. And all the above Achaemenid empires are mentioned in the Bible. So let's try expanding this one now. That works. Thank you. So what about the clay cylinder? This is the clay cylinder over here. And this was discovered in the ancient ruins of Babylon in 1879 by Hormuzd Rassam. This is the gentleman over here. It describes Cyrus's Babylon conquest in 539 BC. Cyrus was welcomed by the people of Babylon. After 70 years, the Jews started returning to Jerusalem. Cyrus began second temple of Jerusalem with Persian treasury. So he started building that, but it took a little time to complete it. He's praised in the Bible, ending Jewish exile in Babylon, and the text is dense in Akkadian cuneiform. So what are some of the things that is in that cylinder? And a translation of it, if you want, in full text will be in your chat box. That is why my co-presenter is there to make you all those contacts. So Cyrus shepherded people, subjects with justice and righteousness. God ordered him to go to the city of Babylon. He made him enter Babylon without battle or bloodshed, according to Isaiah, and we will see that. He saved Babylon from hardship. All people of Babylon kissed at his feet, praised his name. This is in the translation. And then Cyrus says, I did not permit anybody to frighten the people. I sought the welfare of the city of Babylon. I returned the images of God to their places. I gathered all the inhabitants and returned them to their dwellings. And you will see that in the chat box. So what about the cylinder itself and its physical dimensions? This is the original one in the London Museum, and it is 9 inches in length and 4 inches in diameter, with 45 lines of preserved text, and some of the lines are incomplete, and there are a number of missing lines. And we see what this photographer is. So you see, in this presentation, I'm going to show you a lot of video clips, because they give the authentication and fortification of what I'm saying. So this is one of those video clips. And the narrator is Neil McGregor. And Neil McGregor is the senior curator of the British Museum, and you see a lot of him. So this is the first of those videos.
The Empire of Iran, the Medes and the Persians united under Cyrus, became the first great world empire. This empire is, in fact, the Middle East as we now know it, and it's what shapes the Middle East as we now know it. Cyrus sets up a model of how you run a great multinational, multi-faith, multicultural society. And Cyrus makes a declaration. And that is what this cylinder is. This object is one of the great declarations of a human aspiration. It stands with the American Constitution. It certainly says far more about real freedoms than Magna Carta. It is a document that can mean so many things for Iran and for the region.
Okay, so we will see a little bit more of him later on, but we have to continue with the presentation now. We have a lot to cover. So this is the replica of the original tablet in the United Nations building. It was made by British Museum from the original. It was presented to the United Nations on 14th October 1971, purportedly to be the 2500th anniversary of Cyrus the Great. That is the date he entered Babylon. And he entered Babylon on 29th October 539 BCE. So yesterday we celebrated his anniversary, and there was a great presentation by the Zoroastrian Association of Washington. The person who presented it, Dr. Reza, he'll be a doctor very soon, so I can call him Dr. Reza. He did an outstanding job, and it just blew all the other things I had talked about out of the water. It will be the new benchmark of Cyrus, and that was really a real kind of joy to watch him and hear him. So this was presented to the UN on 14th October 1971 by Iranian Princess Ashraf Pahlavi, who was the sister of then Shah of Iran. And this is her quote: "Heritage of Cyrus was heritage of human understanding, tolerance, courage, compassion, and above all, human liberty." And it is displayed on the second floor. So maybe next time when you go to New York, this could be on your bucket list. So what are the aspects of this particular cylinder? Now, there is a little bit of debate whether it was the first Universal Charter, whether it was the Universal First Declaration, and that was revealed to us yesterday by Dr. Reza again. So I'm going to be a little cautious and this is the new normal now, so which I'm kind of going with that. It's a precursor to important aspects of human rights, bringing peace to the region after violence and bloodshed, emancipation, freedom from slavery and forced labor, repatriation of the captives and displaced people, freedom of worship, religion, cultural and civil rights. This is the central theme that runs through our presentation, as well as the fact that you have freedom of religion. So these are the main things that are related to democracy. Anywhere where you have an open democracy, these are the things, these are the most important aspects. And he returned all siege goods and repaired ruined temples. Now let me explain you a little bit. So Nebuchadnezzar, the tyrant king, he invaded Jerusalem. And then he took the Jews from Jerusalem to Babylon. But he also took all the treasures of those temples with him to Babylon. So what Cyrus did, that he returned all this, and in some ways, this declaration is also known as the Declaration of Repatriation. Now, Verdi has written an excellent chorus, which is known as Va Pensiero, and it's a chorus of the Hebrew slaves, and it's an opera called Nabucco, which is the short form of Nebuchadnezzar. And the link to that is given in your chat box. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to play it now. It is very poignant and you should watch it because it gives the lamentations of the Jews to return back to Jerusalem, and it is very emotional. So I hope you can hear it. Now, Prophet Isaiah foretold 150 years before birth. So this is now all the prophecy in the Bible. Cyrus is mentioned 23 times in the Bible and alluded to more. We already saw that in the video. Isaiah 45.1, I will read it out to you. Cyrus also is mentioned in the Quran, in the Surah verses 83 to 101. And he made adversaries his advisors. That is according to Dr. Reza, who I listened to yesterday. So what happens is when he conquers all the places that he goes to, he makes his advisories, the rulers over there, his advisors. And that is how he started ruling by consent of the people. And according to Fry and Zand, again, the teachings of Zoroaster found large-scale implementations by Cyrus. Now, I will just read out to you the Isaiah 45.1. Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have grasped, to subdue nations before him and strip kings of their robes. I will break in pieces the doors of bronze and cut through the bars of iron. I will give you the treasures of darkness and riches hidden in secret places, so that you may know that it is I, the Lord, the God of Israel, who call you by your name. what is happening over here is that when Cyrus is entering Babylon, he enters in peace and in joy of the people of Babylon. And God before him removed all the barriers that Cyrus would face. And that is what basically what it is. So now we are coming to the last portion of this particular segment. And we know that Cyrus repatriated the Jews back to Babylon. So he started repatriating them actually. It was a process. He started building the second temple of Jerusalem in 538 BC. It was completed by Darius in 515 BCE with Persian treasury. Successors, Darius, Artaxerxes gave freedom of religion. So this is a kind of a package deal with all the Achaemenid emperors. They are totally mentioned 73 times in the Bible. And Darius did a lot of things. He introduced the passport system, coinage, and he made the infrastructure for international trade. And the Achaemenid emperors ruled over 44% of the world's population. You can see the extent of the empire from the agency to the Hindu Kush Mountains and the Indus River over here, right? And we will see how the legacy follows Cyropedia. So let me tell you a little bit about satraps. Satraps is nothing but a forerunner to federalism as we now know it. So he divided that into certain sections, and they had to pay taxes. They had their own kind of rules governing that, but they had to comply with the rules of the emperor, exactly what federalism is today. So now we will follow with the legacy of Cyrus with a manual known as Cyropedia. So this is the Cyropedia. It is an excellent biography of Cyrus, the education of Cyrus. It was written by this person over here, 370 BCE, and his name is Xenophon. And he was the student of Socrates. I'm sure you all heard about Socrates. He gives an eloquent account of Cyrus in Cyropedia in 9 books. The book 1 talks about Cyrus, how he was taught by Father Cambyses and wisdom and righteousness. Now, when you see these values over here, wisdom, righteousness, just hold on to the thought. We will discuss it in the 3rd segment. Now, the thing about Cyropedia is that it served as a manual of leadership to Alexander, Caesar, Caesar, Machiavelli, and the US founding fathers as well. And that is where we segue in the US Constitution. Now, what happens that according to Drucker, and I'm sure some of you may have heard about his name, who is known as the father of modern business management. And it is the opinion of Fry that Drucker has said that this is the best manual of leadership even in the business world today. Now, that is his opinion. Okay, so it serves manual of effective governance as Cyrus as ruler was of moral exemplar, right? And this was adopted and endorsed by Islam and the Byzantine Empire in a genre literature, which you see over here, The Mirror of Princes, which is a segue from the Cyrus's education. So it was adopted by the Byzantine Empire. And in 1214, King John, under civil war threat, issued Magna Carta, the Great Charter, that guarantees the separation of church and equality of law and justice. You see this theme coming of separation and church. That is the most important thing. So till then, what was happening was that there was an imposition of the church, and the church made all the rules. People had no liberty. And to make it worse, the clerics of the church had no law. They could do whatever they want. So the people were getting fed up of it. So now, under threat of civil war, this King John issued Magna Carta, which you see it over here. Now, there is one thing to remember, that Cyrus guaranteed individual rights as well as for the community. What those individual rights are, and this is according to Richard Fry again, and that is a marvelous book. So at the time of Cyrus, there was equality between men and women. There are records to show that women were in charge of some army civilians also, and they were in high positions of the government. They say that the pays of men and women were equal at that time. And you will be surprised to hear this, that women were given 1 year of matrimonial leave, paid leave. So he was far ahead of his time at that time. Now, we will come to this important segment of the video over here. I'm sure you all know Christian Amanpour, and she is interviewing Neil McGregor.
The current state of relations is a very odd historical phenomenon. And the same in the United States, because when the founding fathers in the 18th century are trying to decide how you will run the United States, what role will religion play, this is the model. We know that Jefferson had 2 copies of the biography of Cyrus in his library. He tells his grandson that he should start by studying the life of Cyrus. The United States Constitution is in many ways a reflection of these ideas, that if you want people to live peacefully together, you need to allow different kinds of religion in the same state. So it's very odd that Iran and the US are in this state at the moment, because they each share the same founding principles.
I heard you say that the Cyrus Cylinder is even more important in terms of governance, in terms of human rights, in terms of a freedom document than the American Constitution or even the Magna Carta.
Well, it's much older than either of them, of course, which has to be said. But the three...
But as evolved.
The three do deserve to be put together. The Cyrus Cylinder, Magna Carta, and the American Constitution, because they're all a dream of what a society could be, what a society should be. And they're all dreams that the different countries have fallen away from in different ways.
So that was just to give you an idea about the Cyropedia and some more details. And now we have to go to the next slide of the presentation. And now we come to the Enlightenment era. Now, let me talk about an Enlightenment era. This was kind of ushered in sort of by Copernicus in 1543. He started ushering the era of science, and that led eventually into Enlightenment era. And Isaac Newton over here published Principia Mathematica, and then intellectual powers lead to better human existence. So this is what is happening over here. Up to now, there was an imposition of the church on the freedom of the people. Now, when this reasoning came about what is known as the Enlightenment era, the people said that we do not want the church to dictate us what to do. Science has a reasoning, we can reason it out intellectually. And that is what led to the age of Enlightenment era. And the founding fathers are the product of the Enlightenment era. Now, why do I mention this? Because when these thinkers and philosophers are thinking as to what model they should look at for ruling over multicultural, multilinguistic, multi-religious empires, this is the model they fall back on. And therefore, the Enlightenment era was very much dependent on the Cyropedia manual. And that is how the founding fathers came about the freedom of United States. So it led to US independence 1776 and French Revolution in 1789. Founding fathers who contributed towards independence. You can see all of them over here: Washington, Adams, Madison, Jefferson, and all the others. Thomas Jefferson perhaps is considered the most important founding father. He was a polymath, and he considered Cyrus his hero. That is, again, according to Richard Fry and Zand. He kept 2 copies of Cyropedia and asked his grandson and other founding fathers to read Cyropedia. Now, this is interesting. Franklin saw the Avesta in London. Now, Avesta is nothing but a holy scripture book of the Zoroastrians, like the Bible, for example. And he sent it to the University of Yale president in 1750 to share its moral message. So we will come to the next slide. Okay, according to Fry, founding fathers were avid readers of Cyropedia, drew inspiration from Cyrus as an ideal ruler, served as the leadership manual and we talked about federalism. That was satraps. That was the opinion of the satraps. That's what led to federalism, and that is how they divided the states. Cyropedia was in libraries of Ben Franklin and Adams. Jefferson asked the students of University of Virginia at that time and the federal employees to read the Cyropedia. We will see this in a subsequent video clip. Jefferson drafted Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom in 1777. That later became a cornerstone of Bill of Rights. It was with Madison, and firmly established separation of church and state. According to Fry and Zun, Cyrus embodied Zoroastrian teachings. So we will come to the last segment of the video with Christian Amanpour. And this is it.
So they were very eager that it traveled to the United States.
So in sum, Cyrus and his heir Darius and on for about 200 years, they represented a multicultural, multi-faith tolerance. Is that what? In sum up what they represented?
What they represent is the first recognition, I think, that if you're going to run a society with people of different languages, different beliefs, you cannot impose by force one system. You need to find a way of getting the consent of your different peoples by recognizing their diversity. And that is the question that we all now have to address when we live in a world city like London. We have hundreds of different nationalities, languages, different religions living together. The model of a state that can accommodate that difference, there's only been one empire that really ever did it, and it is the ancient Persian one. That's why I think it's become again a period of history that people want to study, and that we all realize we can learn from. How did the Persians, for several centuries, hold together this extraordinarily diverse group of people in moderate peace and in great prosperity?
I really am fascinated about how Thomas Jefferson was so devoted to it as well, and had, as you say, copies of the biography of Cyrus. And I've read that that biography was required reading for all who wanted to go into governance and politics, along with Machiavelli, certainly in the 18th century.
But it's not just Jefferson, it's not just Machiavelli. By the time you get to the 18th century, everybody in Europe is interested in Cyrus. One of the best sellers in Enlightenment France is Les Voyages de Cyrus, written in both English and French by the same author.
The Travels of Cyrus.
Travels of Cyrus. The Travels of Cyrus. We know that there's Icelandic poems about Cyrus. Icelandic poems about Cyrus in the 18th century. It is impossible to exaggerate what he meant in the Enlightenment world, the world out of which the American Constitution is born.
But again, doesn't it just blow your mind that this is a Persian king in today's world, where Persia is viewed so negatively by
what happened? I cannot.
It's astonishing.
Can you?
And I think that's why you talked about the relationship between Israel
Something is wrong.
and Iran, the US and Iran being so
I cannot
These
escape from my
This is a
computer.
very new phenomenon. For most of Western history, that empire, that moment in Iranian history,
I cannot toggle.
has
I
been
cannot toggle.
the model
It's
to
okay,
which to
just pause this video
think how to solve the problems.
and pause it.
I cannot pause it.
itself. It's cuneiform. Am I
Yes.
saying that right?
Yes.
Can you
Does it
escape? Just hit
say-
escape.
Yes, I'm trying to hit escape. Nothing is happening.
It's not a rattling good read, it must be said. It's quite a complicated text. I mean, basically, when
Do
you
you
were
see
putting
your
up
slides on the left side?
6th century
Stop
BC,
shit.
you always put
Yeah,
an inscription
okay, all
at
right.
the foundation.
But I cannot stop
And
the. I
foundation is
cannot
basically- that's
stop the.
basically to tell the
I have
future
my slides
what a
here,
great chap you are for having put the
but I
building
cannot
up,
stop the.
and so on.
I cannot stop
What
his
the
stop.
cylinder does, there are three
Just go
parts.
and close the window of this video.
Oh, there you are.
God.
Thank God. I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. There you go. Sorry for that, ladies and gentlemen. Technology, what can I say? All right, so let's get on now. So this is from a FEZANA 2013 Cyrus Spatial, and it is a full PDF, which you will see in your chat box, the full publication that came out. And this is the opinion of two respected attorneys in that particular publication. And they say that Cyrus's true grift to Jefferson is refrain from exercise of power. The First Amendment has two aspects of religious pluralism: free exercise of religion and bars establishment of religion. Their existence has endowed freedom of worship. America has been successful in adopting Cyrus's model. The freedom of religion model was later adopted in the Indian Constitution. Cyrus understood that only the strong can be tolerant, and this celebrated freedom remains our most sacred inheritance. In fact, not ours, but also probably all over the world. And now I come to this next slide, which is a very interesting slide. And it talks about the Wadias, which is a very respected business institution. It is an old institution. It's almost 300 years old now, probably. And they built a lot of ships. They started as shipbuilders in Surat, which is about 280 kilometers north of Mumbai. And they built ships. Now, one of the things to remember is that their ships were of great edge against Napoleonic wars. This is according to the British Naval Journal in their archives, and that is how European democracy survived. And we will see that also later on. But this is the most important thing that relates to it. This is the Minden. See this beautiful ship over here? I can't help it because after all, I served on ships, so I have to talk about it. So this is the HMS Minden. It is the work of Jamshedji Bamanji Wadia, who is the grandson of the patriarch. Now, what it is that it went into service between 1812 and 1815 in the American War over disputes in Chesapeake Bay. So there was heavy bombardment of Fort McHenry, which is near Baltimore. And Francis Scott Key, an American lawyer, on 12th of September 1814, went on the Minden to negotiate release of US prisoners. But he was detained overnight because of the bombardment. He was rejoiced to see the American flag flying the next day, right? And then how that he scripted the poem Star Spangled Banner, which became the national anthem in 1931. So now we will see a clip of there. And again, this escape, I don't know what has happened to my escape button. Can I do stop share and share again? Will that work?
Absolutely. Yeah. Do whatever you have to.
Okay, I'll stop sharing the screen. Now I will. Okay, here you go. Bakhtawa, is it okay if I keep it like this? Because I'm in a problem with the escape button.
Go ahead and just try out this way. I'm sure everything is okay. Whatever works for you.
Yeah, thank you, because otherwise we are getting, too much delay. So this is, I don't know. I'll just keep it as it is, unfortunately.
We cannot see anything but your face right now, Sam. We'll have to share for others to see.
I'm sorry, you were saying something and the music was going on in the video.
You have to share so everyone can see what you're trying to show us.
Oh, I forgot to share. Yes, of course. My share, this thing has gone away.
Just,
Wait a minute.
yeah, you should be able to see that green arrow.
No, I have lost you completely. Wait a minute. How about this?
Wonderful, you got it.
Okay, so now do I have to play it again?
Yeah, go ahead and start this slide again.
Okay, already. Okay, so that was the Minden. I'm sorry about the tech glitch over here. I really don't know how I can control it, but we will go on to the next slide now. And that takes us to the third segment, which is our final segment. Now, before we enter this third segment, a little bit about the central doctrine of Zoroastrianism. Now, this is, of course, common in one way or the other to all religions, but the practice of it is important. And that is why I'm just giving you an overview of it. The central doctrine is steeped in the basic belief and anchored in the practice of Asha. Now, Asha has got many aspects: truth, law, order, beauty, righteousness, purity, and freedom. And these major aspects have a divinity, which I don't want to go into right now, but I will explain you a little bit about the truth, and that's where the purity comes in. So thou shalt tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God, that there is nothing like white lies or diplomacy. At all times, you are enjoined to tell the truth. Now, the subsets of this are justice, equality, piety, love, peace, and charity. That all comes under the umbrella of righteousness. And this central doctrine enjoys the following path of righteousness and truth. And why that is important? Because we should have empathy for others, equality for all humans and genders, and respect for all creation, right? And that is how the support of Gandhi came around. The Parsis were supported, and now I'm using the word Parsis because, as I said, that in India, Zoroastrians are known by Parsis, to keep it simple, right? And they were practicing it, and it was directly impacting on Gandhi and indirectly on the civil rights through Gandhi, through the agency of Gandhi. Now, you can see a few examples over here. This is His Eminence Cardinal Go in Singapore, in the Zoroastrian Museum in Singapore. They are having an interfaith activity over there. And this is Prince Philip, His Royal Highness, the late Prince Philip. And he says that have heard tremendous contributions Zoroastrians have made to this country. He's talking about the UK. These are some of the Parsis in the House of Parliament in England. And these are our luminaries in the House of Parliament with an important political leader in India. So with that background now, we will go to Mahatma Gandhi. And Mahatma Gandhi in India is known as the father of the nation. He richly deserves that. There is not enough importance given to him, unfortunately, over here. I've seen there need to be more studies about him. But first, we will see how the journey of human rights takes place to Mahatma Gandhi, till Mahatma Gandhi.
Religion, the right to...
Is there supposed to be a list somewhere I should be aware of?
According to the United Nations, there are a total of 30 human rights, which are usually lumped together and called simply human rights. They're all listed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is the world's most widely accepted document on the
I will
subject.
have a problem with escape
But it was a long time
I want to
coming.
keep it.
At first, there were no human rights. If you were in with the right crowd, you were safe. If you weren't, well, you weren't. But then a guy named Cyrus the Great decided to change all that. After conquering Babylon, he did something completely revolutionary. He announced that all slaves were free to go. He also said people had the freedom to choose their religion, no matter what crowd they were a part of. They documented his words on a clay tablet known as the Cyrus Cylinder. And just like that, human rights were born. The law had become natural rights. Unfortunately, not everyone was so thrilled. In France, a general named Napoleon decided to overthrow the new French democracy and crown himself emperor of the world. He almost succeeded, but the countries of Europe joined forces and defeated him. Human rights was again a hot topic. They drew up international agreements, broadly granting many rights across Europe. But only across Europe. The rest of the world somehow still didn't qualify. Instead, they got invaded, conquered, and consumed by Europe's massive empires. But then a young lawyer from India decided enough was enough. His name was Mahatma Gandhi, and in the face of violence, he insisted that all people of Earth had rights, not just in Europe. Eventually, even Europeans started to agree.
So you see the hypocrisy over there, unfortunately. They started having democracy in Europe, but they denied Asia and they started ruling over Asia. Well, that's history now. Let's not kind of go over it. But here's the thing now, that is how now Gandhi starts his life. So he studied legal studies in England and came to Durban in 1893. And whilst traveling by train in the first class, police constable forced him out. And he told him that colored people are not allowed to travel by first class. So Gandhi decided to stay and fight racial segregation. So just to give you an idea, I'm going to expand this plaque and I hope everybody can see this. So this is what the plaque says over here. So in the vicinity of this plaque, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, that's his full name, was evicted from a first-class compartment on the night of 7 June 1893. The incident changed the course of his life. He took up the fight against racial oppression and his active non-violence started from this date. Very important. So this is a seminal movement for Mahatma Gandhi. And we will see then how it kind of goes into the American civil rights later on. Okay. I don't have to worry about this plaque anymore. So, but in order to sustain them now, he required financial support. He required political support. He required mentors. And this is the person that financed him. His name is Rustomji Gorkhodu in South Africa. He was a businessman and a philanthropist. And he supported Gandhi at the risk of his life, at the risk of his family's life, and at the risk to all his assets. He saved Gandhi's life and his family's lives for 20 years on at least a couple of occasions. So that is how the Parsi support comes to Gandhi, right? He mentored, sponsored, financed Gandhi from 1893 to 1940. He saved Gandhi's life. Rustomji, his family, and his assets were transferred. And this is a quote from Gandhi, which I thought I would bring it out to you. Be the change you want to see, right? So now we will go on to the next slide now. And we are almost at our end now. Whenever we talk about Indian independence, whenever we talk about anti-colonialism, whenever we talk about freedom from the oppressors, we have to take about this man over here. His name is Dadabhai Naoroji. He's known as the Lion Man of India. And you will be surprised as to how much influence he has over in the last century and this century. He was the pioneer of Indian nationalism. This is according to the School of Oriental and African Studies in London. He was the first Asian to be elected in the British Parliament, first to articulate evils of colonial and imperial rule. He established Swaraj as a primary objective. And this is what the school has to say. It is impossible to imagine what Indian nationalist movement or global anti-colonialism would look like without him. You see, he was the political hero of Gandhi, and Gandhi actually had to take a letter of introduction to meet Dadabhai. And that is how Dadabhai gave him the mindset to fight for the Indian independence. And Gandhi counted on political and financial support of Parsis. There were many, many incidences like this. there's just a couple of things I want to mention, that even after Gandhi came back to India, his life was saved by 2 Parsi surgeons on critical surgeries. Right. So we are on the last slide now. Yay. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm not expanding the Bakhtawar because otherwise the escape button will again give me a problem. Please, if you can excuse me, everybody can excuse me on that. I'm very sorry about that. Okay. So how Gandhi inspired ahimsa to NAACP, right? Nonviolence also deeply influenced Martin Luther King, a Baptist minister who led several civil rights movements. Now, you see, here's the thing, though not enough of this connection is being made. You will notice that when all these months are celebrated, there is hardly any mention of the segue of Mahatma Gandhi into these American leaders, okay? He considered Gandhi his hero. Now, Martin Luther King, when he went to India, he said that he's going to India on a pilgrimage to visit the places of Gandhi. Of course, Gandhi had died by that time, but he wanted to visit the places where Gandhi had stayed and Gandhi had started the movement, right? Now, this is a very, very courageous lady over here. Her name is Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks, as a 14-year-old, had read about everything about Gandhi and what he did while he was traveling by train. So she got the inspiration from Gandhi. And on December 1, 1955, when Rosa Parks refused to give up the front seat because it was only reserved for whites, she was arrested. And she was arrested, and this is the fingerprinting that you see over here. Okay. Now, the Montgomery bus boycott led by Martin Luther King led to nonviolence of civil rights movement, marches and protests, and that ultimately led to the Civil Rights Bill in the 60s. His famous quote is, "I have a dream." And now we will see the importance of Gandhi on Obama in this last video that we are going to see over here.
Luther King, Obama has also sought inspiration from India's father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. And on the first day of his visit to India, President Obama will pay homage to the Mahatma at Rajghat.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up.
Dream and reaffirm that fundamental truth that out of many we are one. That while we breathe, we hope. And where we are met with cynicism and doubt and those who tell us that we can't, we will respond with that timeless creed that sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can.
Obama himself is deeply influenced by both Martin Luther King and Gandhi. And when in India, he will be paying homage to the father of the nation at Rajghat.
I might not be standing before you today as President of the United States had it not been for Gandhi and the message he shared and inspired with America and the world.
So this is what he says, that he shared his message with the world and he inspired the world. That is the important thing to note. He's talking about Mahatma Gandhi, of course, right? So we have basically come to the end of our presentation. And I just thought that I would show you these monuments of Cyrus, which anybody is thinking of taking a project, you should do this. This is in a park in Sydney. This is the Olympic Park. This is also in Sydney, and it talks about Cyrus and the dawn of human rights. They are fairly recent in 1994. So I think this is the project that our associations can all take up to bring the awareness of Cyrus to the world. Now, instead of giving a summary, I thought I would give you a visual collage. So this is where it starts from, the Cyrus's cylinder, and this is Cyrus the Great. They were anointed in the Bible, the Old Testament, right? And this replica is in the United Nations building. We then come to Cyropedia, and this is Xenophon over here. The founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson and the founding fathers, the separation of church and state, and the Bill of Rights. And then finally we come, and I forgot about the Wadias who built the Minden and so many ships that they defeated Napoleon over there. And then we finally come to Mahatma Gandhi over here and Dadabhai Naoroji. They were supported, and Gandhi was supported by Parsis. And Gandhi was an inspiration to Martin Luther King and to Obama. And that, ladies and gentlemen, basically ends my presentation. I just want to give you a note of thanks to all the people. There is a huge collaboration behind me, and there were a lot of people helping me. So I just thought that I would display the name and thank everybody for making this possible. And you can see the names over here. Co-presenter Bhaktawar Desai, she has been dotting my I's and crossing my T's always, and she's been very helpful as a co-presenter today. Co-chairs of the FEZANA committee, Bhaktawar Desai, Homiyar Gandhi, and Dr. Pasakia is not actually a co-chair, but he helped me a lot. So references of Richard Fry and Ashwin Zand, interviews with Christian Amanpour, references from Dr. Ramyar Karanjia and Erwin Zerik Dastur, and Dr. Reza Zarghami. He was very, very influential in revising my presentation today. And Dr. Professor James Russell, whose last thing I want to read out for you over here, and it's just half a minute, right? So this is what Professor James Russell is saying. In an age when all natural world seems to be poisoned, who better than the followers of Zarathustra can recall his teaching that man, animals, waters, plants, earth, sky, and fire are sacred? And where has the Zoroastrian road taken us? From the steppes of Central Asia through Greece of Pythagoras and Socrates, to Renaissance Italy and Enlightenment Germany in England, we saw all that. To the storming of the Bastille and the Winter Palace, to these shores, to the freedom and democracy and freedom that are treasures beyond price. The ideas of the prophet have shone through the corridors of history, a light unto feet of us all. So thank you very much. And now it's over to you, Bhaktawar. So I will stop sharing now.
Yes, stop sharing. Thank you so much, Sam. You did a great job, and I'm sure everyone appreciates all the information that you've shared with us today. And there's no need to apologize for all these technical glitches. It happens to all of us. And I'm sure everyone here understands that this could happen to them too if they were in your shoes. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we end today's program, I would like to share some slides and a very short 2-3 minute video that the Parliament of World's Religions has requested that we share with our audience. So just bear with me for a moment. The 2023 Parliament of World's Religions is going to be happening in Chicago from August 14th through 18th next year. And this is a short video that they have made for their audiences to inspire people around the world to come and attend this in-person event next year. The first half of this video, which is about a minute, since it has clips from really old, almost 100 years, 50 to 100-year videos, they may not be that clear in sound, but just bear with us, please.
Common ground shared by the world's religious and spiritual. Common ground shared by the world's religious and spiritual traditions. Now, 30 years later, Representative. In 1893, religious leaders from around the globe came together in Chicago for the first parliament of the world's religions. The meeting was a groundbreaking gathering of representatives of Eastern and Western spiritual traditions. Today, it is recognized as the birth of interfaith dialogue worldwide. 100 years later, at the 1993 Parliament in Chicago, religious leaders came together again to affirm the Declaration towards a global ethic. The Declaration is a powerful statement of the ethical common ground shared by the world's religious and spiritual traditions. Now, 30 years later, representatives of the world's religious traditions will once again gather in Chicago to affirm human rights and the productive discourse that comes from interfaith dialogue.
The Chicago will address one of the foundational issues of our time, the threat to freedom and human rights. We must defend freedom and human rights together and find solutions to the rise of autocracy in our world. Through this lens, gathered participants will discuss the threat to democracy, the crisis of climate change, the dignity of women and girls, the rights of indigenous peoples, engaging the next generation, peace, justice, the reduction of inequalities, and more. The Parliament will be a place of open minds and open hearts, where we can all express the wonder and dignity of our religious and spiritual traditions against the backdrop of the majestic beauty of Lake Michigan.
The world was called to Chicago in 1893 and 1993. 30 years later, the world is called again. Join us. Get involved today by answering the call for programs, becoming an exhibitor or sponsor, joining the Parade of Faiths, hosting a pre-Parliament event, or volunteering at the 2023 Parliament.
All are welcome. Register now.
These are some of the luminaries who have attended and addressed the audiences at the past parliaments. These are the registration rates. So if you register before tomorrow, the end of the day tomorrow, October 31st, you can register at the low rate of $325. If you're a student, you get a $99 rate. But you can register up until the last day. If any one of you here, whether you're a Zoroastrian or non-Zoroastrian, wants to propose a program, I'm sure you all know that the deadline is November 3rd. So it's just 3-4 days away. The proposal forms are all online on the website. At the end of the slideshow, I will put the information about the Parliament, their phone number, website, their email address, and everything in the chat. If you know of any vendor or any community, religious community, or any nonprofit community that wants to display an exhibit, please inform them about the Parliament. And there are forms to submit for exhibits or for sponsorship on the website. If you want to host a pre-Parliament event, you have a lot of time in your hands. Between now and up to the beginning of the Parliament next year, you can plan a pre-Parliament event on Zoom, in person, locally. If you do it on Zoom, the Parliament will help publicize it all over the world through their website, Facebook, and other media. you have to formally submit a proposal form for a pre-parliament event. And once it is accepted by the parliament, like this one that we presented today, they will help you with all the publicity and partner with you in letting people around the world know about your event. If you volunteer, if you want to come there and not have to pay such a large registration fee, you can actually be allowed to pay a registration fee of just $50 if you volunteer 20 or more hours of your time during this event between 14th and 18th August of next year. So that's something for you to consider. And it is truly a life-changing experience, because when you are amongst people from all walks of life, people who we think are so different from us, they are from different religions, speak differently, but when you are with them and you are experiencing this with them, you end up realizing that we're not so different after all, and that all of us human beings are so much more similar to one another than different. So I really, truly hope that you guys will consider registering and attending the parliament. And here's the information, which I will put in the chat box pretty soon for you. With that, Sam's presentation is over. What I wanted to show you about the parliament is over. And now we open it up to you. If you have any questions or any points of discussion you want to make with our presenter, we welcome you to do that at this time. And if you want to speak up your questions, just unmute yourselves and speak up. Or if you want to place them in the chat box, we will look for them there. Yes, we will be sharing today's presentations recording with everyone who registered. So I will send you an email with a link to today's recording, and I'm sure FEZANA will also put it on their website. So anyone wants to say anything to Sam? Go ahead, unmute yourselves and talk to him.
Yeah, if you have any kind of remarks or you want to add to the presentation, this is community collaboration after all, you know. I'm not a scholar, it's just my historical interest. And then when, you know, you take interest in these things, you know, you come across, for example, a kind of a milestone like the presentation by Dr. Reza yesterday. He blew everything out of the water, and this is how we kind of progress.
Sam, there is a question from Shahzad Patel.
Yes, please.
The question is, are there any plans for some version of this talk to be a part of the Parliament of World's Religions program next year? And do you want to answer or should I?
No, you please answer, because the protocol I will not be able to navigate.
Yes, that is exactly why we had today's program. We will be having quite a few programs under the FEZANA umbrella that will be addressing the topic of defending freedom and human rights. Today's program is a precursor to some of those programs. We will also be hosting an exhibit at the Parliament of World's Religions in their exhibit section on the Cyrus cylinder. So we will be having several programs, exhibits, information in our faith room. Each faith community gets a faith room. So what you heard today is one of the first in a series of pre-parliament events that FEZANA will be hosting. to support next year's Parliament of World's Religions.